Welcome to Steve 87th, Puget Sound and Pacific Railroad.
Hi everyone, this is Steve 87th PSAP Railroad, or Puget Sound and Pacific. This is my channel, and I just wanted to invite you guys to come along and watch as I build my railroad, build up some kits, do some kit bashing, and running trains like the one behind me. So if this is what you guys like to watch, stick around for a while and see if you like the channel. Hey everyone, Steve 87th here for installment number 3, getting started with this build. This section should talk about all the little pieces and some tricks of the trades on getting some of the other pieces apart off of their spurs and things like that. So have a watch, and we're leading up to how the thing starts getting built. Okay, thanks for watching. All right then. One of the first things I like to do is make sure that I get everything all set up the way that I want it. So I will go ahead and open up my packets and get my items out. So we know together we've got at least 21 inches of items that we need. So 6 and 6 is 12. I'll get a few more of those out as soon as I find them. These are only 3.5 inches long. So we know that that's 7. So I'm going to need quite a few of those, of course, and then the 12-inch ones. So I've got to cut a bunch of those apart. Now, one of the things I will show you, well, I'm not going to bore you with taking everything all out and showing you how to cut everything up, but one of the things I am going to show you is these Tichy trains. Now, one of the bad things about the Tichy trains, they are very, very delicate, and you can cut them really easily a lot of times because they're so thin. There's a couple of ways to do this. You can do it with, I would not do it with the spurs. The spur cutters wind up not having enough clearance in there to make a nice, easy cut. You can see that it's still sort of there, and it leaves a big nub on it that you have to cut up. Plus, you can slightly see there's a little bit of damage to those. So we don't want to use the spur cutters. So in that case, we want to use either the chisel blade or a regular blade. The nice thing about this is, as thin as these are next to all of this, we can actually just take a knife, put it on the edge that you want, nice sharp one, and just kind of run it along with a little bit of pressure and cut each one of these down. A lot of times it'll be easier to do with the chisel blade, because I'm having to get in between each one of those, so it's a little bit tough. But with the chisel blade, you can just come in here, set it right up along the edge. Let's see if we can do this. Set it right up along the edge, make sure that your chisel's in the right section, and just go down, and it pops them right on out. The good thing about the chisel, there's very little cleanup after it once you're done with it, if you do it right. So, nice thing I like about the glass is it makes a good cutting surface as well, if you need to. So, this is the fun part about this, is getting all of these walkways cut. And again, I like to do this first. Once we get the walkways separated, that's the major part of the items that need to come off. Everything else is fairly easy to do. I just want to show you this because one thing about the Tichy trains, everything in there is extremely delicate and is a lot harder to do things with sometimes. So sometimes when you cut stuff, you actually cut it in the wrong direction and cause it to be damaged. So that one had a little bit of nubs on it. So you just come back with the chisel and clean all those nubs up. Now, it's real important, especially on these, that you get them cleaned up because of the way that this actually all goes together. So you can see here, left a couple of little nubs on the side of it, so I'm taking those off and cleaning them up. Sorry, I don't have the overhead down shooting camera so that you guys can see this. I'm taking it from an angle. So hopefully you can see it that way. Okay, let's speed that up a little bit. But now once you get this, look how flexible this is. It bends all over the place. So you want to take care with these. I usually try to cut them all off, and then once I cut them all off, I put them in a nice little bin so I can pick them up later and that they're out of my way. Now the same with these handrails. These handrails are fairly delicate, but if you look, the handrail actually extends a little bit over the top, so that's where you're actually going to cut it at. And then you want to cut these flush down here. If you look on the back side of these handrails, this is the part that will go up against the decking that we just did. So you can see that there's tiny little little divots that stick out over here. You don't put it in like this, because that's not the way it's supposed to go. You're actually going to, when you fit this on there, these will fit in between each one of those, but you actually should have a toe kick. So more than likely, because there isn't good instructions on how these go, these should go together with those little divots on top. You can put them on the bottom. You can do it either way if you want to. If you put them on the bottom, there isn't a toe kick that's going on, and there's just about as much meat. But if you want the look of a toe kick, you can put it on the other way, and there's still enough meat here on the glue that it will actually contact it. So again, you can do it either way to build it. This gives it a little bit more strength when you build it up this way because it has more contact points. Okay, so we're going to cut those off. Again, these are real easy. The only big thing is just seeing, you got to go from the correct side and just chisel down. You can see how much these bend when you actually cut. So it's really easy to break them. You want to go real nice and slow. That one's already broken. You can see there that center one's already broken. Good thing is a little bit of glue. Those go together pretty well, and you can't see that it's been broken. That's actually broken in 2 spots, so we'll correct that. And the good thing is when you have a break like that, the best thing to do is do it right away, so that you can figure out where it's going to be at. Just use a little bit of glue and you can get it done. Okay, so those are out. We'll just take these out too. This is real quick. Okay, them in the basket. This one's broken too. Again, that's one of the problems with the Tichy train stuff, is it is so finely detailed and it is plastic that it tends to break. Okay, so I'm going to go through, I'm going to cut all these things out. I told you about fixing this, so you can see here that it is actually broken across from there. Again, great thing for a glass table. This is where I use my thinner glue because it can get right in there. It will actually flow into the areas that it's broken at. And once those are fixed, you'll be ready to go. A little dab there, a little dab there. The thin glues, if you get the right time, they actually just suck right in, make it all work. So those will be glued up. They're going to be working together. We'll set that off the side. All right, I'm going to go cut a bunch of these walkways out and the fire escapes so that I have all of the pieces that I want. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and do some more cutting and things that need to be done. So I broke off all of those. I like to have these little dishes around. There's a couple of ways to do these dishes, which is kind of neat. This is actually a paint dish that you can get and buy. I am a lot more happy with using these. This is from Jif peanut butter cups, and I think this is from another type of peanut butter cup and all that, or from Dixie of some sort. So they're just small little pin bins you can get all over the place. So we have our 2 motors that I need, because I only need 2 of them. Okay. Because we've only got 2 belts, so we only need 2 drives. So we got 2 motors. We only need 1 dump valve, right? Because that dump valve is going to be on over the one bin. The other bin is going to be the end of the conveyor, so everything goes into there. Now, we do have 2 of these cut out, and I'll show you how I did these. Okay, we have 2 of these cut out. The reason that these are cut out, those would be where the slides go for the conveyor belt, and I'll show you what we're going to do with those. Why we have 2 of them. And I'll show you how to cut these out. These are angled irons. Okay, they're the U-shaped irons. All right, and then these are going to be the supports that go underneath the bins there. Okay, these are all the grates. The grates have all been sanded a little bit on the side so that they're all good to go. The handrails are all in a handrail bucket here. All right, so I got a bucket for the fire escapes. We'll see if we're going to use those or if we wait for the other ones to come in. We've got the gray handrails here, all in a little pail so that they're ready to go. We got the deck grates here. They're all ready to go. All right, back over here, we have a pile of the second set of handrails. All right, get them all out of their thing. Clean them up if you need to. In some cases, I don't have to. We got all of our webbing done. You want to grab as much webbing as you need for the distance that you're going to have. So if you think about it, I got one that's 12 inches. These are 6 inches a piece. So I need at least 2 of those. However, there's also an extended length. Now on the 8-inch ones, those are 6. And then 12, that's 12 inches. So I'm probably going to be good with the 8.5-inch run. But on the 12-inch run, I'm actually going to need some overhang on both sides. So I've got a little bit more overhang there. Put 2 more in for a total of 18 inches. And then I've got an extra one and a spare just in case. And I also have some things like the motor and all that I have to make sure that I have enough room for and all. Okay, so that's most of the things that I got cut. Now, let me show you these little items here that I've got cut out too. These are kind of simple. So notice on here on this little glass thing, this is all cut out in 1-inch grates and are halved and quartered, which is kind of neat. So my first one, which is about 3/4 inch long, I'm sorry, let's get it over here. You can see here it's about 3/4 inches long. It fits in between those 2 things. These 2 are going to be the dump chutes that go into the bins. So the 2 dump chutes are cut. Now, these are actually a couple of things that I need, and I need a couple more of these. These are 1/2 inch. They're 1/2 inch, the same size as the conveyor is going to be. I put these actually on, oh, this is the wrong size conveyor. I actually put these on the ends to show that there's a little bit of a difference in each one of them. That's still the wrong conveyor belt. Anyway. Okay, so we will correct that. It is not 3/8 inch tube that we're using. We're using, I think, 3/16, which is between the 2 of them. We got the right tube now. I will correct that and make sure that we've got the right one. But anyway, so what happens is I make sure that there's a distinctive division here at the end, and these are the return motors. Okay, so, and they're also going to be the supply motors. So I need a couple more of those, and you can see that those are about a 1/2 inch length. I also use these for the supply ducts that are coming in there, which will go up like that. So I'm going to need 2 of those. Okay, so that means I've got a total of 4 that I have to cut out. And then I have got a section that needs to go, when I actually build this, there's a section that needs to go between here and here, which is 1/2 of this size. just a little bit. It's actually going to be a little bit longer than that. That's what I use for my intake connector. So we're going to go ahead and show you how we cut up the tubing, because I want to make sure that you guys don't destroy a bunch of your tubes like I did, because I will actually destroy a little bit of it for you just to make a point. Okay, so let's see how we do that. All right, so it's demonstration time. So let me show you something that happens here. First of all, this is one of the ones I'm going to use little pieces out of, so it's okay that I crush it a little bit. So first of all, let's use the chopper. If I use the chopper in this direction in a 1/2 inch, watch what happens as I cut this. You can see that it is going to deform, and when we cut down to the bottom, you get a nice, oh, sorry. You can get in there, sorry. That's the way your tube is going to look like when you're done with it, as opposed to it being like this, which is square. One of the other problems that you get with it, look at the cut on the edges. The cut doesn't come out square. Okay, so now you've got basically a useless tube that's been crushed. Luckily, the longer one is still in good shape, except that it's crooked. Okay, this is why we don't use the chopper on the tubes. So the proper thing that we want to use, we want to use the miter box and square. Okay, so let me see if I can get this over to the edge of the desk. It needs to be at. So mine actually goes over to the edge so that you can actually hold it against the wall, so that when you're cutting it stays kind of straight. So the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to put this up against the side of the wall, and we're going to get a straight end cut on it. So the way that we do that, we put the micro saw in the miter box and just easily cut it. Now this is a miter box from Midwest Products. I'm not exactly happy with it. I kind of broke it the first time I did it because I had a big piece in here and I actually cut into this plastic. So that's one of the bad things. So there, now I've got a square piece that I can utilize, right? This one's garbage, but it's kind of good. But you can see here what's nice is you could do the angles and all. I'd thought about doing angles on all of my things that I was making, but I just went, no, that's just too much of a hassle. I don't want to deal with it. Okay, so we already said that I need a couple of 1/2 inch long ones. So let's go ahead and get some 1/2 inch longs made up. I'm just going to use my dividers for a 1/2 inch. I just like making it fast and easy for me to do this. It's where I don't have to put marks on everything and then get the marks off later. So a 1/2 inch, come in, cut these. Sorry about the shaking, everything's on the same table. So that's 1 1/2 inch. So that's that one. We can clean up those edges in a minute. Recheck, make sure I still got a 1/2 inch. It's really nice to have this measuring thing right there. It makes it a lot easier to do things. Okay. Okay. Razor cutter. So that's at a 1/2 inch. And I think we're going to make, yeah, we'll make 2 more of those, just because these are actually getting cut very, very well at a 1/2 inch. And so then we'll do the next cuts in a minute here. 1/2 inch. Okay. So before I do that, I'm going to cut all of those off the screen and then get the other side. So you get the way that I do it. Now, one of the things that I wanted to show you though is, how did I make these, right? How did I make these? So what's really nice about this miter box is you can actually set this at a very, very thin level get your razor knife in there, or your razor saw in there, and gently saw back and forth, just keeping an eye on things. And there you go. You get a nice little cut, thin cut piece, and it's rectangular. So you can do this with other tubes too if you need smaller square pieces and all that. So that's why I wanted to show you. Oh, and let me show you one more thing. The knife cutting, the bad thing about cutting it with a knife, so this one we know is a square end. We'll go down here to the other end. When you're cutting it with a knife, you get the same problem you do with the other one, only there's a little bit more of a problem. I can't keep this square. You have to put a lot of pressure on there. You can see that it'll go in there, but I've already made this not square again. So then we cut it off. The piece went flying and all that. So now I've got a piece that's not squared up again. All right, so miter box, use the miter box, use a razor saw. That's your best way to get your straightest cuts, especially on a tube. It works well with round pieces as well. So I'm going to finish cutting these up and then we'll get back to you. Okay, we want to get some more cutting out of the way. So one of the things we have to make is these little channel irons. The channel irons are meant to go between these two items. This actually fits right in between the channel iron, between the web, so that it actually forms a little bit of a bond on both sides. So you'll make sort of a ladder out of this. So these are actually a 1/2 inch. And this is where the chopper comes in good because you need a bunch of these. You don't need as many as what's on the prototype, but you could if you want to. So you go ahead and you set up your 1/2 inch so that you have this all ready to go. I taped it in place. This was actually supposed to be tightened down. Just tighten this in. You take your measurement from here, from the actual blade to here, set up your guard, and then you just come in and chop these. Now, the cool thing is, the nice thing about the chopper, as people have said, you can make a whole bunch of things, especially when they're the same size, really quickly, especially when it's thin, easy work to go through. Okay, so we just want to chop up a bunch of those. It doesn't really matter how many. If you want to really get technical, you can go find out how many to cut, where it is that you're going to put them and all that kind of stuff, and then cut them all up. I just figure, you know, there's enough of these. I can always use more things like this. So if I cut up too many, I've also got more channel iron that I can use for my other things. So there we go. We got a bunch of them cut up, and that took a couple of seconds. All right. Now the other thing is I got all of my angles done. So let me show you kind of how this works. The way that I made this, your first little area here, right? So this would be your typical setup for your motor section, right? So this is going to be the inlet here. This will be the inlet housing. This is your connector housing, and then this is where your drive housing will be. Okay, and then on the other end, and I kind of showed you guys this in the pictures on the beginning. So on the other end, you just have a return belt housing, and in between this will be the rest of the conveyor belt. Okay, so that's kind of the way that those are shaped up. Those just have to be cleaned up and then put together, and then we actually put an end on it. And one of the things I forgot to mention in there, we do use a little bit of flat stock. This is 3/16, or this is a 1/4 inch flat stock. You can get it in whatever thickness you want or something. The way that I like to do it, I cut it to the right size, glue this on, and then we round off the edges to give it kind of a finished look. Okay, so I'll show you that as we go along. All right, so let's keep going with the build then. All right, everyone. So we've got pieces cut. We've kind of told you how things are going to be working, getting stuff put together. Now, the next video will actually show us starting to put parts together. So it's really kind of funny. Like I said, this scratch build is a lot different from doing a building. Building, you're cutting out small amounts of pieces and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of like when Vinny just did the lift, the bucket lift for one of these things. It still has a lot to do, and there's a lot of detail that goes into it, especially when it comes into the HO, because you got to be able to see what's going on. So we're going to end this video on this one, and in the next video, we're going to put parts together. All right. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys again, and subscribe. And oh, I've actually put a folder together in a watch list for this series that I'm putting together, and it's labeled for the conveyor. So if you guys miss something or anything like that, it'll be in the watch list on my channel. Okay, thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you soon.